Welcome back to the show. Today's topic: men should be honest. First, what is honest? Being truthful, having integrity, just to mention a couple. Why should men be honest? One of the reasons I think men should be honest is because it raises the way people see us and interact with us. Why? Because they see our actions and our motives are in a clear light, like that we don't have an alternative or we don't have something else in mind. We're not doing it for gain. We're not manipulating a situation. We are more or less straightforward and direct with our wants, our actions, and it's very clearly seen by anyone around you, right? And ultimately, it's very easy concept to mention. Hey, just be honest with everything around you, whether it be work, relationship, with whether it be with your spouse, whether it be at work with coworkers, your friends, families, and acquaintances. It sounds easy, like, yeah, I'm gonna be honest, but as we all know, sometimes being honest gets you to lose friends, lose relationships, lose a job, lose a marriage or a girlfriend, or a significant other, just because maybe just because, but the wrong word. Maybe it's because the way society is. Maybe because the way the definition of honesty changes and fluctuates from person to person. Um, who knows, right? Like, or only you know why. Like, oh, were you too blunt, or did you come out in a very honest but a-hole way? Were you sugarcoating the honesty? Were you beating around the bush in honesty? So that there's so many ways, quote unquote, to show your honesty. But at the end of the day, it should be something that is clear, that you're not gonna, fluctuate from that. Again, like I said earlier, your actions are your motives are to get that accomplished. Like, so, for example, at work, you might go into a job where you're in there in hustle mode, right? And you're gonna rub people the wrong way. I always preach having great work ethic, no matter what position you have, no matter at what job you're at, um, with some exceptions, of course, because some people can cross a line, some management can cross a line, and some coworkers can cross a line, and we're human, and we definitely can cross those boundaries. But so I preach a good work ethic, and when if you're in a position when you go into a new job, you're gonna be gung ho. You're gonna want to show off. You're gonna want to impress because you're looking to get past probation. You're looking to get called up full time. You're looking to get whatever, or maybe you're a current employee and you just want to work for a promotion. But well, let me scratch the last one. So you're in there, and of course you're gonna rub people the wrong way because they're gonna look at you and look at this startup, look at this guy coming in here and trying to impress the supervisors for a job. And many people that have been working in some of these positions will get upset because they've already been there for a certain time. Everyone's accustomed to their speed, so all of a sudden someone's gun ho, and that develops some resentment towards your employees. But a great way to nip that in the butt is being honest, like going up to them and saying, hey, I understand that you guys are here. I'm only here to help and to learn, but I'm trying to, feed my family. I'm trying to pay my bills. I'm trying to get a full-time job, or I'm trying to get, employment here and pass the 90 days. So if you guys could help me, that'd be great. But I want to be part of the team, and this is just the way I work. Now, you have to have a work ethic. You can't just bullshit, because if you BS them and you then become lazy after your probation period, which is what they're expecting, that's why the attitude happens, because most will go in there. No, they know they don't have good work ethic because over 50% of employees don't prove that. And I don't have the exact number, but look it up. So people aren't necessarily enthused to go to work. So it's fairly common for people to go in there and be like, yeah, give it 3 months, give it after the probation period, see if he keeps his speed up or whatever. And for the most part, people don't. So you have to really be congruent with your actions. And when you come at someone and saying, hey, this is who I am, you better be 100% that's who you are, because once you don't, they lose respect for you. And it's not just because of a job, just anybody in general is going to lose respect for you if you're not congruent. So back to my point, so once you make it clear that this is the way you are, because again, I preach to myself about hard work and giving an honest, presentation at your job, and having that good work ethic of what's expected of you. So if you go in with that mindset, and you communicate it, you clear, not demands, but this is just who you are to them. Now it's up to them to grab that message and then either say, hey, we respect that, or they'll fall into who does he think he's talking to, kind of a deal. That's basically where you're gonna land. Some won't care at all. They'll be like, well, that was a whole lot of drama for nothing. And then you just carry on, right? You just carry on. So then when you go to work, you're gonna do the same kind of work, but it's gonna be your motives and actions are gonna be clear. Why is he a workaholic? Why does he look like he's moving 1,000 miles an hour? That's just the way he is. He likes to work. He likes to fucking move around. So what do? Some people don't like it in this work scenario, because again, it's gonna just rub people the wrong way. And that's just one example of in a work scenario, but because I know that's probably the more complex or the harder one, even though relationship tends to get the headline. A lot of times at work, because we don't communicate, it then leads to, I mean, every job sucks, right? I don't care what it is. You could find basketball players that are living their dream, that have to practice and the games that it sucks. That part sucks about working. But when you have clear communication with what any position you are in whatever job you have, it makes it a whole lot more pleasing, a whole lot more not shitty is a more clear way to do it. If you just would have that communication, that clear, like, hey, this is what I'm looking for, or this is what makes me feel uncomfortable, or how can we help each other out. That communication, and having an honest, like, why are you asking me, if well, how can we make this better, like, what is your alternative? That's going to be the number one thought, is like, why are you bringing this up? And you have to be clear that it's because you have it might be faster, or you're a team player and this is just how you want to reach out, and you saw it works that way, but you wanted to improve on it and help them because you just want to do it, whatever. You have to be clear. Now if someone says, well, I don't need your help, depending on one of the scenarios that I added there, so I feel like I have to add it there, depending whether they're receptive or not, it doesn't matter, as long as your communication is clear. That way your motives and actions can then be out in the open. You're honest. You're being 100. You're not being a kiss ass. You're not being a brown noser. Brown nosers are when someone that's lazy, and we all see them being lazy, but when the management is there, they turn around and start acting like they're the employee of the fucking year. That's brown nosing. So work ethic is showing up and doing your stuff. So when you communicate that that's just the person that you are, that's just the kind of guy that you are, and that you're going to go in there and kick ass every single day because that's the way you live your life and trying to achieve excellence, you let them hate you. No matter, you're not going to please anyone or everyone, but you'll be more often than not, you'll be respected by more of them than not, because you've already communicated. Again, you have to be congruent. You have to follow it up. You have to keep, that has to be you. It can't be fake, because the minute you mess that up is the moment that the respect doesn't happen, or doesn't keep happening, and it could lead to a negative or toxic work environment for yourself because the respect factor is lost. And I don't care what relationship you have. Doesn't have to just be romantic again. Romance seems to take the headlines. But if in any relationship, whether it be friends, acquaintances, family, girlfriend, wife, work, colleagues, supervisors, management, whatever, if respect is lost, the relationship is done. So it's important to have that congruency in your life so that when you are expressing your points of views or your expectations or your suggestions or your whatever, being congruent with you're being honest about what your demands are, but your actions and motives are all in line with that aspect of it. So sometimes it's uh, sometimes it's hard to be honest, but when you're not honest, you betray yourself. And what I mean by that is that if you're not expressing and being honest with the world in this, with just everything, being honest, you're not being true to whom you are and what you like and what your expectations and what will brighten up your world and what will make you try a little harder. That part right there is, I think, where we all mess up, because we twist it. We keep on moving stuff around to fit narratives, to sneak around stuff, to beat around the bush, like I've said. Or maybe I haven't said that. Maybe it was in another maybe it was in another podcast. But you're not in line with who you are. And just like everything, if the more and more you start putting pebbles and lying or not being honest, just not being honest, and being honest with yourself and betraying yourself, eventually, little by little, you'll start putting pebble after pebble after pebble, that it'll just be a shell, and the world will see who you really are. But in your mind, you will have this idea, this shell of yourself, like, oh yes, I'm being quote unquote honest, but all your actions and motives and the way you move around speaks that you're just a dirty, creepy, lying person that can't be trusted in any aspect, whether it be holding a job, whether it be trusted with employees, whether it be having a girlfriend, whether it be having a wife, whether it be having, close bonds with your family, whatever, acquaintances and friends. And that's when everyone sees it, all that two-face, and you hear it a lot. That's what we then deem those people. I mean, there's a ton of them. I said a couple girls, but or girl based kind of insults that we say, but as men, when someone is that way, they pretend to be something like that. Man, that guy over there is full of shit. I saw him doing this. I had a fitness coach, not a fitness coach, a life coach that preached about eating right. And he made this whole thing that where you had to lose weight, right? Because we had a lot of overweight employees. So he made this ridiculous, I wish I would have kept the whole thing that he did, because I could have probably posted it somewhere, and it would have probably went viral as the worst life coach ever. It was just way too aggressive, and way too aggressive in a general, where people that maybe gradually need to build up to that stuff. It was just an unhealthy thing to do. And he was always preaching, and he almost got people fired. Is what pissed me off, is that it's okay, fine, but these people are, like everything, humans are creatures of habit. And this a-hole was almost he never did get someone fired, which is great. That's the happy the happy part of that. But it got really close, because he would complain to HR. But anyways, so he preached this whole thing, and he would walk around with his little nose up in the air and whatnot. And I'm sure people know swap meets and stuff like that in the Hispanic community, while here, at least in Vegas, there's an outdoor one, and it's basically in the Hispanic area of town. But anyways, there's some really delicious food, but like every Mexican food, it's super unhealthy. So I was there with my kids walking around, and who do I see? I see this health coach, quote unquote, life coach, and all this other stuff that he has degrees for, I guess, eating this elote with cheese on it. He had this greasy ass chicken. He had just the worst of the worst. And it would have been, you might think, like, well, what is that? Maybe it was just one of his off days. Maybe it was his cheat day, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Excuse, excuse, excuse. But the point being is that when he saw me, he turned white. So that's why I knew that he knew that I knew that I caught him in this thing or in his bullshit. So after that, when he would see me, it would be super uncomfortable. I started not even showing up to his thing when he would summons me through email or something. And I started I started telling everyone. I started telling everybody. Some people were like, oh, look at this little snitch. And call me a snitch. I don't care. I was pissed that people were getting almost fired and this guy was fucking being a hypocrite. So I started telling people that I wasn't going and that this is what happened. This is what I saw. So then they didn't start going. Eventually, within 30 days, that whole thing changed. He knew that I knew, and he knew that it was starting to spread around. So he decided to cut the program, to change it up, and he became super, super, super more lenient. So I don't even know how I went down that tangent, but we're uh, we're there. But anyways, so sometimes it's really really hard being honest. But when you're not, again, you're just be you're just going against yourself, and you don't want to do that. You never want to do that. It's just gonna lead, like I said, to you just losing who you are, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to lose yourself because of little beat around the bushes, or stuff that you should just really acknowledge, instead of denying it or lying or white lying about it. So anyways, moving on. Who should you be honest to, right? Like, you might be thinking, well, should I be honest with everyone? And you should be honest with everyone. That's what the answer should be, is that you should be honest with everyone. And why would should you be honest with everyone? It's been saying in the beginning monologue, it's going to raise everyone's expectations of what your demands are, what your standards are, what your overall expectations, whether it be, like I said, work, relationships, friendships, acquaintances. Um, when you're just honest, again, there's no impeding then in all that aspect. All it can do, just like I did with the work environment, it's gonna raise that environment. Again, it's not gonna be perfect because you can't please everyone. People are gonna be talking ish about you because you're going in there with a good work ethic. But in the overall, because of that communication, um, that you were honest, it raised the environment, the work quality in that essence world, because you made it clear. So now when you go in there, you don't have to worry, you don't have to slow yourself down, you don't have to do any of that stuff. You're just kind of, boom, I'm going to work. You're putting in your 8-10 hours, whatever, and you're out. You're doing everything legit. They know that no matter what, this is the way he's gonna come in. And I've been sick with that same work ethic. So with a fever and still having that high work ethic. That's just the way I believe it, when you commit to something. As far as work has been one of the easiest ones that was drilled into my head fairly quick by myself. So I believe, and then when you move over to relationships, I have a whole episode where I just mentioned the what benefits that when you direct, or you direct your expectations and you're honest, or you direct your honesty towards a female or your wife, and clearly detail your expectation, what it is and what is not. The relationship all of a sudden starts getting better because now there's a form of communication. There's a line between two people, and in some instances, it could save a relationship. It could save a marriage. Same thing with friends. I see that way too much, where friends have friends that don't belong, that they don't need to be friends because they're not honest with each other, and they just lie to tolerate themselves to keep that person in their life because they feel lonely, because they feel they won't find someone else they can hang around with for X amount of reasons. But we do for who, again, I already said why we do, just a couple of reasons why. But it's gonna elevate that if we're honest, because then those friends that don't need to be there will get the hell out, and the right friends will come in. Obviously, if you put the effort into finding quality friends, anybody could find dirtbag friends. That's easy. Just like anybody could find a dirtbag girl, and anybody, it's easy to find a dirtbag anybody. And when you're reaching for low hanging fruit, that's why they call it low hanging fruit, because it's pretty freaking easy to get. But to get that good fruit, you're gonna have to put some effort. You might have to climb. You're gonna have to do something out of your ordinary to be able to attract. And a very easy way to do that is by being honest, by clear communication in every aspect of your life, so that the people that are liars, that don't want to deal with it, that think you're being bougie, that think you're being a dick, that think you're oh, look at this narcissist dude that thinks he could have, tell me that he doesn't like the way I cook, or the way I clean, or he doesn't like the fact that I tell him to do most of the work, or he's new here at this job, he should be doing more of my work than what he's doing, whatever. When there's clear communication, those people will fall off. And the right ones that are going to cheer you, like, look at this guy coming in here with that work ethic, I'm going to help him. He got my respect. So if he could do him, I'm going to do me. But if he needs help, I'm going to help him, whatever. Oh, you know what? He says that he's a homebody, but he wants to work it out, and or meet me in a happy medium. Oh, look, he used to do this and it felt bad, and he's changing for me or whatever. But so those kind of people will start coming into your life, or in the instance of your relationships wise, they will change the way, because they see the clear communication. And once you've communicated clearly, those kind of people that are gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, that are gonna cheer you on a little bit more, that are gonna make your environment that much more easier to live in, that make your biosphere a little bit more positive, is through honesty. I'll get to what kind of honesty, because a lot of people, again, they'll shadow hate under the umbrella of honesty. They'll put a lot of disrespectful jabs under being honest. So, but we'll get there. So, what should you be honest about? Again, everything. Your likes and your dislikes in everything. Work, relationships, friends, families, and acquaintances. In every aspect, you have to be honest 100%. You can't deviate from that. You have to be 100% of the time with everything. You have to be honest. Why? Right? Why should you be honest about everything all the time? Because, again, it elevates everything, whether it be at a restaurant. But again, we all know the joke. You want to be careful. Hey, kicking something back because you want to be honest that the cook is horrible, and you want to let them know. Trust me, that's the easiest way to get your spit on your food, or just bad stuff done to your food. So, but you still should be honest with everything. And I know I went specific with the restaurant. There's certain things that you should do once you feel the food is not up to your par, without being a dick, without being disrespectful, but being honest and to the point, and making sure you get what compensated for the crappy meal, there's definitely a way to do that. So I'm not saying be brutally blunt and start kicking stuff in the restaurant. I don't know why my mind went right to that, but probably because servers are probably the most disrespected employees. But I don't know. It went to restaurant. What do you do? So but you should, and make sure you are honest about what you like, what you don't like, and that's gonna just again it's another buffer, I guess, or another hurdle that people will have to jump through with it when they like both sides, and it's easy to say, hey, I'm honest, I don't like that, please stop that. Hey, you crossed the line and I'm being honest. Like, it's easy to be honest when we're addressing negative, but we oftentimes, and I know it comes a lot more from the female side, we don't communicate our likes. Men do communicate their likes, and our likes are very minimal. And that's why I said earlier, or just a little bit ago, about women communicate their likes more verbally, but not enough. Is where the miscommunication between men and women, that I feel, at least one kind of big portion of it. But topic for another day. But we need to be able to well, when you ask the question, like, what should we be honest about, and like I said, everything in our likes and dislikes, our likes have to be honest. Like, hey, this feels good, I like this. And hey, when not that it's, call it positive reinforcement, whatever. Everyone likes to be told they're doing a good job, and that made them feel good. When someone gives me a present, I'm almost, hugging them and telling them thank you, and how I felt, like, oh, my heart feels warm, my spirit is light. I'm appreciative that someone went out of their way, to get me something, where that it doesn't stir up some emotion. So for me, I fully on my likes, like, hey, this felt great. And if it's in at my work, and my boss asks me or something, and I really do like it, and it happens to come up in that conversation, I'm gonna say it, like, hey, I think this is a great, environment. I think, this and this is amazing that we work here. I mean, I've not just that's just probably me. More people should be like that. But again, when you tell your girlfriend, your wife, hey, I love what you did for dinner. It was really good. Can you make that like every other week? Every other Tuesday, or every time on a Tuesday. That the way you looked, on Tuesday, can you just dress a little bit more like that? That just, you look so amazing, whatever. But you have to communicate what you like, so then it makes the other person it's easier to understand. No one's a mind reader. No one knows what the other person is thinking. We haven't evolved that to that yet. So communicate your likes. We all communicate our dislike. Oh, you made me feel like crap. Oh, you did this. Oh, you couldn't cook that, or we don't communicate the likes. So it's easier for the other person that probably wants to go out of their way to please you, to make you feel good. But if you're not going to communicate what you freaking like, then how is that going to happen? They're still going to experiment. Maybe they're waiting for a reaction from you. But if you verbally say it and physically express it, being like, this food was amazing, can you cook this? Your meatloaf was bomb. Let's have a meatloaf Monday, because I want to taste that food. There's a way to be honest. And people are probably, well, what if she's not a good cook? And we'll get there. We're really close to getting there. There's a way to be honest in a negative form, but there's a way to do it. And I'm sure everybody's thinking, what, being sensitive? Which it is. It's being sensitive, among other things. But we'll get. So again, what should you be honest about? Everything, right? So one thing I want to get across before I go into the last kind of point I want to get across, I guess, if you want to call it, is white lies is oh, I only use white lies. White lies are still lies. So I don't. If I gave you a little bit of poop, just a little bit, just a dime size, and then I do these little white lies enough. Eventually, that little dime size poop is gonna turn into a big old poop. So that's literally what wise lies are. White lies are, and then you're just gonna stink up the joint. Boom, boom. I'll be here all week. No, I'm just kidding. So when white lies are still lies, so just stop them. Oh, I wanted to avoid hurting your feelings. Oh, I wanted to, I didn't think you could take it. Oh, it's hard to talk to you. Oh, blah blah blah. Oh, I didn't, report them because whatever. And that reporting part is in at work, and you have to. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. White lies are still lies, and just it needs to that part right there, that myth, that white lies. Sometimes you need white lies. Sometimes white lies are okay to prevent someone from broken heart, or that whole myth needs to die. a, a lie is a lie, no matter what color you want to associate with it. So but that part right there, that myth that hey, it's certain times it's okay to lie for X reason, is it just needs to go away. It causes too much pain, too much confusion, and the more that myth gets told, the more people believe it, and then the more it gets accepted, and then it becomes a tool in someone's weapon, in someone's repertoire in bullshittery. So when should you be honest, right? So this is where we're getting into the judgment part of being honest. So it's not sugarcoating it, but in certain aspects, you have to use judgment. So I wrote all the time, right? When should you be honest? I've been preaching that for 34 minutes and 25 seconds now. Every time, everywhere, no matter what, be honest all the time. So right now, I'm gonna go against the whole thing and put, but, and this is where the only place I feel there is a but, and this is where you use your judgment, is work, right? At work, your boss might be a dick. You obviously can't tell him, hey, you're a dick. Maybe if you find another job and you quit, and maybe you could tell him that, but even then, you don't want to burn your bridges. You shouldn't burn your bridges. But at work, you probably can't be as honest because you're dealing in a professional setting, and even with your coworkers. So maybe you're a manager and someone below you, or someone even, like I said, maybe your manager. You can't be 100% honest if you're feeling negative ways, right? So you're gonna have to use your judgment on that. And I do believe also with your friends and families and relationship, when you're dealing with negative aspects, when you're dealing in an instance when, let's say, your girlfriend or your wife can't cook. Obviously, if she's your wife, you would already have known this, and if you didn't, then why you married her, and if it's an issue, why you married her. But obviously, you wouldn't have done it. So let's just say your girlfriend can't cook, because if you're married, I'm assuming that you came up with the solution that I said, or maybe you came up with your own. But if your girlfriend can't cook and you want to be honest, obviously there's gonna be some judgment, because you never want to hurt someone's feelings, but at the end of the day, you're not responsible for everyone's feelings. And you shouldn't have to sugarcoat. It would be nice to say, hey, your cooking sucks, don't cook, right? And obviously if you offer a solution like, hey, I'll cook, but that could hurt feelings, and it make her cry or whatever. So in an instance like, hey, you want to tell her because she cooked for you, and you didn't like it, and now she's asking you to she's asking you to dinner. She's gonna cook for you again, basically. So you already know that she can't cook, and you're like, oh my god. And let's just say for this instance, she's cooked for you long enough, 3 or 4 times, when different dishes where she's trying. It's just that, well, for whatever reason, she's just not hitting the marks. As far, maybe it's just your taste buds. Maybe your taste buds are fucked up, and hers are perfect, and you're the one that can't taste nothing because you messed them up with whiskey, cigarettes, and whatever. So in these aspect, in these ways, you would say, hey, how about we cook together? And that way you're not really hurting. You're not, obviously you're not bringing it. She's gonna see it romantically, and you're like, hey, next time, why don't we just wait till I get there, and then we'll cook together. So then you could, if you know how to cook, obviously. If you don't know how to cook and and it tastes bad, then maybe you say, hey, how about, you might could go buy a cookbook, but nowadays who the fuck buys a cookbook? You could just Google a recipe and say, hey, let's try this recipe out, and you guys could kind of try it together. If you guys both, if you can cook and at least she's trying, but you're not liking it, then obviously you want her to get better. So then you guys cook together, which is the same premise as the cooking. Wait until we cook, until I get there, whatever dish she has, and you season it a little bit more. You change it up a little bit more, but you do it in a way that's, you're still, the whole thing is about being honest, right? So you're still holding true to your action. So in case it comes up later on in something, your actions and your motives were true to you. You didn't like the food, right? You didn't like the way it tasted. So what is honest is that instead of sitting there and eating food that you don't like, you could either go asshole route, hey, you can't cook or whatever, or come off in a very disrespectful tone where she breaks up or gets angry or holds some grudge against you, as opposed to in your directive, you don't want to not enjoy that meal. So in what way that you want to obviously be caring about what you're going to do in your actions. So your actions are your motives. Hey, I want to enjoy her, and I want to make her a better cook, or I want to just be able to enjoy the experience fully. Then in that aspect, when you're cooking with her, you're not lying, obviously, and you're being honest. Maybe you're not mentioning it, but in your actions and the way you're going about, you obviously don't like it. So if you ate it, that would be the being dishonest, when you're betraying yourself, like I said. But when you're holding true frame, it's not always verbally that you're expressing your honesty. It's by your actions also, by the way by the way you're acting and your motives. Like I said earlier, that's the way people are going to see you. So even if in this instance she finds out later on that you didn't like, maybe you guys were drinking and you said, oh, you know how we cook all the time now, or we used to cook like when we first met, I really didn't like your cooking. She'll probably be taken aback. What? And you're like, oh my god. Da, da, da. But then you say, yeah, that's why But look what happened now. We cooked together now. Or that we cooked together back then, and you're such a great cook now. And it'll be easier for her to accept it, because you were being honest. You weren't rude. You didn't tell her that she sucked. You didn't like it, so instead you made something where it was a bonding moment, whatever. You could be cutesy, call it cutesy, whatever. And but you were congruent with being honest, because again, the whole thing is about being honest, and she'll know, yeah, he did it because he didn't like my cooking, and he knows how to cook. And in the other example, if he didn't know how to cook, hey, we learned how to cook together, and I think it brought us closer. You could use that line, I guess, if that exact scenario would come up. But it's still, overall, when they look at you, it's still congruent with what your actions and motives are, and no matter what, like, you should look at you in the way you work, operate with your friends, with your family, and it'll be a simple association that she makes, and anyone makes, when you're just congruent like that and honest. But again, in work and in those relationships, it's use judgment. And again, with family and friends too, you should use judgment, but not so much. Like I said, it's only in certain ones. You should always try to be a gentleman. You should always try to be caring. You should always try to be loving. And in all those aspects, quote, like, I'm going to use the quote unquote, when all these guys want to mention these alpha male, high value, quote unquote stuff. What the quote unquote was actually before that. But anyways, all of those things that I mentioned, loving, honesty, and being a gentleman is all part of that, umbrella. That's what makes you high value. That's what makes you an alpha. That's what makes you a man that's distinguished. It's not the fancy mustaches or the fancy clothes or your fancy cars or house. All that shit is accessories. What makes the man is how he is able to walk through life, and how everyone else is interacting with him, and the way they're going to interact with this, quote unquote alpha high value that everyone likes to say is, like I said, being honest, being caring, being loving, being a gentleman, being a protector, being all these things that you don't hear now, because it's all about being an asshole, being a jerk, doing this, doing that, seeing, rotations, and how much this and how much, kitty could I have, and how much, oh, I'm such a man. All just in name, but nothing is being congruent in your life. Nothing about what you're saying or portraying is reflecting that you're this high, honest, male that is expressive of what he wants, what his needs are, what his desires are. And when you do that, again, we could put this in dating, you could put this in profession, you could put this in just building better relationships. If you're not being honest, you're never gonna, you're just gonna be a shell of that person, a fake mask of a person that you wish to be, but you're just gonna end up being like the example that I said in the beginning, where we all see the true colors and just shake our heads at being like, huh, okay, this person wants to, check him out. There he goes again. That kind of, joke, I guess, if you want to call it. You don't want to do that. So if you want to be, like you guys claim, high value alpha dude, then be honest and communicate clearly. And when you do that, it's gonna the people that aren't gonna be there are gonna disappear. It might hurt, it might suck, but it's just making room for what you need and for what needs to come. That's the only time, like I say, you mean, again, I say the only times, like I didn't mention all of them, right? But judgment should be done only sparingly. You do want to communicate as many things as possible. Use judgment, of course, because you don't want to lose a great relationship. You don't want to lose a great job. You don't want to lose families and friends and acquaintances because you're being too harsh, because you're being too dickish, because you're being an asshole. You want to use some kind of sugar in your approach. And once you use a little bit of sugar and a little bit of mind, you trust me, you'll know. You don't need it. You don't need me to detail it out. You'll know when you need to do it, if you're operating from that authenticity, from that place that this is what you are, because tomorrow, the next day, the day before, and the day before that, you were that person, you are that person, and you will be that person. If you're honest, then people will trust you, and your life will be easier. I'm not saying it's going to be richer, it's going to be with abundance of money, but it sure as hell is going to be easier. Because again, when someone is honest and tells you, hey, I don't like this, and I'm being serious, I don't like this, you can't get any more clear than that. And if someone violates that boundary, guess what? You can move on. You could quit that job. You could look for another job. You could quit that marriage. You could quit that relationship. You could stop talking to family. You could cut those friends off. You don't have to deal with certain acquaintances because you'll change your circle. When you focus on being honest to yourself first, once you realize what it is to you to be honest and what that means, then you're going to start attaching, like I said, all your boundaries and expectations and demands and outlooks and etc. to that. But it only starts with being honest. If you're lying to yourself from that beginning, forget it. You're digging a hole instead of trying to come out of a hole. The minute you stop digging is the minute you turn that honesty that I just mentioned you should have with everyone else when you focus it on yourself. And before you go out and do all this honesty searching and putting everyone's foot to the fire of honesty, make sure that you are honest with yourself first. So I hope you guys enjoyed this topic. I hope I made you guys think. Sorry for the digressions there in the middle and towards the end, basically through the whole damn podcast. So share the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time.